are still in January 2013, part 2, 3, and 4. Part 2. They want you to determine the sum of the first 20 terms of the sequence whose first 5 numbers are 5, 14, 23, 32, 41. Now, you have a couple of choices here. You've got the sum. You have a formula for that in the back on your sheet. The sum is your arithmetic one. So you pull out your formula. Notice you need the first one. You know the n, you have that. You do not have a to the n, the last one. You need the 20th number. Now, if you take that sequence and you continue it, you can find 1220 and then simply just add them up, and that would work as well. If you remember this formula, and I would write this down on your formula sheet so that you have it, this will find a specific term. So we want this term to be the 20th term. We have our first one, and we know how many we want, but we don't know what the difference is between them. So just calculate your difference. What does it take to add to each one? So we know our D is equal to 9. You're going to have to find that regardless. So you're going to have to work that out and multiply by 9. When you work this out, you will get your last term to be 176. Then you have everything for your formula. For the sum of your first 20, you know n is 20. Your first entry is 5. Your last one is 176. Divide this by 2. And when you work this out, there's your sum. Now, should you forget all this, my advice is just continue your pattern. This is 5. You need 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Will
12,
Matthew
13,
Schweizer
14,
and
15,
Evelyn
16,
Pine please call the main office? Matt Schweizer and Evelyn Pine, please call.
Sorry, you need 20 of these. Since you know they each increase by 9, keep adding 9. If this counts as work, but make sure you show all your work. Just keep adding 9 all the way through. It's nice to remember the formula, but if you forget that formula, you are going to be stuck. And there's one for the geometric series as well, so don't confuse them. When you're looking for a sum, it's the arithmetic, and a geometric one is your ratio. So once you find this, you can find your last number, or since you have all 20, just add them up. And it works the same, whichever one you prefer to do. The sum and the product. These are also two little formulas that we don't give you, the Regents doesn't give you, but you should take them and put them on your formula sheet so that you don't forget this. The sum of your roots is equal to negative b over a, and the product of your roots is equal to c over a. Now, if you can't find them, we'll put them all on one side anyway. We'll set this equal to 0. You can always factor, use your quadratic, complete the square, and find your roots, and then take the sum and take the product. But if you remember this, line this up. So A is 3, B is negative 11, and C is 6. Now, just plug them in. A negative of a negative over 3 gives you 11 over 3. Product is C over A, 6 over 3. There's your answer. That's all they're looking for, sum and product. If you forget those two little formulas, you're going to have to do the quadratic equation on this, find your roots, and then you're going to have to work it through. Actually, that's probably factorable. 9 and 16, it looks like it's factorable. So you could factor that and then find your roots. Okay, number 30 is a little tricky. One of the things you have to remember is that cofunctions of your angles, for instance, let's take a look at your 30, 60, 90. This is your 1, your radical 3, your 2. Now, when you do this, you notice that your sine of 30 and your cosine of 60 are equal. Your cosine of 60 is equal to your sine of 30. So your cofunctions are equal on this. And your angles are going to add up to 90 when your cofunctions are equal. So your secant and your cosecant are your reciprocals of your cosines and your sines. So those angles have to be complementary angles. They have to add up to 90. So you're going to take your a plus 15 plus 2a, and that has to be your cofunctions. That has to add up to 90. So combine your like terms, and then work it out from there. And a is 25. Go back and look. They just wanted your value of a. That's all they want. So you can give them your value of a. And you don't need to put a degree sign there because they put it outside of it. And they already said in degrees. If you prefer, you can. Okay. Number 31 is a nice statistical problem. Take your numbers and put them in order from lowest to highest if you're going to do this out the long way. Find the middle of your data. You have 10 pieces of data. If I count 5, my middle is right here. Now, your interquartiles are the quartiles within. It's your quarter 1 and your quarter 3. So break this back down. Break the middles of these down so that you can find your quartile 1, your quartile 2 in the middle, your quartile 3, and your quartile 4 in the end. So you take this guy and you say, okay, interquartile, and you have to know this, is quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So you're doing 79 minus 72. Now, another way to do this is take this data and put this in your L1. You've got to show work. So make sure you say L1 and point to your data. And then say 1 var stat L1. Go to the last 5 numbers. These are called your summary numbers. And in that last 5, you're going to see a quartile 3 and a quartile 1. Just make sure you show enough work. Because if you do it in your calculator and you don't show work, you won't get any credit for this. Okay, in number 32, you are looking to solve the equation. Notice they say in simplest radical form. When they ask for solve, they want your roots or your zeros of your equation when y is equal to 0. There's your 0. Now, because they said simplest radical form, you know this cannot be factored. So you have two choices. You can complete the square, in which you would have to factor out that 6 and make yourself have a fraction, or you can use your quadratic equation. And in this case, I would probably opt for the quadratic equation. I like to make an information box. Pull out A, pull out B, watch the negative sign, and C. And then substitute them in. Now, when you have a negative of a negative, there's your positive. And plug everything in. There's your negative 2 squared. Be careful of your parentheses. All over 2 times A. Resolve this in your calc without your radical sign. Just put that part in, leave your radical sign out, and that comes to 76. Now, they ask simplest radical form, which means 76 has to break down into a perfect square and a not so perfect square. So just start dividing. 76 divided by 2, divided by 3, divided by 4, and we find 4 and 19. So we say 2 plus or minus square root of 4 is 2. What's left is 19 over 12. The easiest way without factoring is to separate it. And then reduce it. So this becomes 1 over 6 plus or minus 1 over radical 19 over 6. If you want to combine it at the end, combine it back. If you factor up here, factor out a 2. Do not cross them out. Factor it out, and then you can factor out the 2. And you're going to get the same answer. This is your simplest radical form. This is what they're looking for.